So anyway, I will start and keep going with the presentation, and we do the mediation ourselves among the questions and the discussion. So, well, first, welcome. I'm Ligia, and I'm part of the collective MAIS UNO, and we are here with some people from the collective, and also with also some of our partners in the project Play the Ground. And I prepared a small presentation about the Play the Ground project. And after this, we will have a little bit of a discussion regarding the project. So how I thought now we would I just make a small 20-minute presentation to explain how does the project work, and how how are we organized in the project. And then we will have all the participants, the partners, and the artists and mediators of the project presenting themselves, and then we can go for questions and discussion. So I wanted first to ask if you know, for instance, this photo, where was it taken? If you can have a guess of location where this could have been taken. And by the way, Nicole took this photo, who is here with us today, and a few more from this presentation.
Well, if I can advance a guess, I'll say it was interlude.
Yes, you already know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone else is in mute, so I won't.
Yes, of course. Yeah, there is this photo, and also another one that was also taken in the same neighborhood, but it could be, I mean, it could be in a very different place, and we wouldn't guess, as we see the bridge from the back, that actually if we drive 10 minutes and we take a photo from the bridge point of view, that actually what we see is something completely different. And suddenly we are in the center of Lisbon, and we realize that actually the city has very different dynamics, living very close to each other. And also we can understand them as different economies or different practices. And so, very often these dynamics are not speaking with each other, and the dialogue between these parts of the city is not very clear to us. So also this one was taken at Zambjal neighborhood, and here we also see the same. These are like farms in a kind of land that has been freely used or occupied in a informal way by the inhabitants of the neighborhood. But actually, if we look closer at what is on the back, we see this kind of industrial area with a lot of shopping centers, and again, a very different way of doing and making economies. Sometimes these dynamics even happen in the same space. So, for instance, this one is another neighborhood, Quinta da Fonte, and here it's exactly in the public park. We see a horse, and also we were quite fascinated by these dynamics. How can the spaces have these dimensions working at the same time, simultaneously? And finally, if we think about also the media, we find these points of view also to be very diverse and very different from each other. So if you look at mainstream media, many times when we look at the Lisbon urban peripheries, we see these kind of photos of demolitions, of violence, crime, and poverty. But actually, if we look closer to other sorts of forms of media, and to other communication, we see this community organizing, sustainable practices, and cultural and immaterial knowledge. So, I mean, our questions were, how did we get here? How does this relate to the community economies? And how do we establish dialogues between these diverse economies within the city, and why should we do it? And I just wanted to reference two projects where we work. One is a Lisbon Drawing Club. Also have some members of the Lisbon Drawing Club here today. And Lisbon Drawing Club is a drawing collective that basically we meet for drawing around the city, and we engage in different places. It's a very big community. And another collective where I'm also part of is MAIS UNO, MAIS UNO, and this is a curatorial collective. And here we develop art projects or curatorial projects that engage communities, territories, and artists. And these kind of projects are in this kind of ecosystem. And it's very organic, it's horizontal, and also it's these kind of circles that you see, they are actually permeable. So this is not a closed circle. And we kind of work also as community economies. And we engage then with the outside, the city, the partners, the communities. And because we were speaking about weaving and forms of weaving, I just give an example. For instance, in Lisbon Drawing Club, we have more this kind of horizontal weaving, this more superficial weaving, but it's a form also of mapping of the city, where we participate in different locations. And then with the MAIS UNO, MAIS UNO, with the Play the Ground project, we have more this kind of vertical or in-depth weaving, where we stay with a location for a long period of time, and we bring different resources into the location. And going back to how did we get here? I mean, it's usually by invitation of the communities. And now I'm going to focus more on the Play the Ground project and how we stay working with the community for a longer time. And here, like AMRT, which is one of the associations, they work with this neighborhood of Talud and Quinta da Fonte. Talud is a self-built neighborhood. And when we visited first time, they wanted us to bring art into the neighborhood and to engage through artistic practices in the neighborhood. And when Aureo showed us the neighborhood, Aureo is on the right side, and he's from AMRT. When they thanked him for showing us the neighborhood, he said, "No, I have to thank you, because every time I come here, I have the chance to feel renovated." And this sentence stayed with us also, because we realized we are not really going there to fix anything or to really solve any issue. We felt like we were just going there to stay there, to just to meet the people and to accept the invitation that was given to us. So we did several activities in these neighborhoods. This one was with the Lisbon Drawing Club, so we connected to this more superficial weaving. But soon we realized also we needed to stay for a longer time, so we created the Play the Ground multidisciplinary residency. And usually this residency is very common for artists, the artistic residencies. But so basically, we, as artists, we usually have a practice of staying in places and creating from the experience in the place. But this is not so common for other fields. So we really wanted to engage in this idea of multidisciplinary residency and bringing different knowledge forms into the experience of a place. So yeah, it's quite a complex project if we understand that we are putting together really a lot of different people, institutions, and different formats of communication also. But usually, to make it more simple, it usually starts with an invitation to stay in a place that the neighborhood provides to us, usually a studio or a working space. And then from this space, we also have mediators, people who support during the project. And then after the period of the residency, which usually happens during summertime, because also the neighborhoods ask us to especially engage with the younger population of the neighborhoods. But after the residency period, we also have a time that we do an exhibition and a publication and roundtables in an university, which is not necessarily an art university. It can be any university, exactly to create this kind of dialogue. So if we think about the community economies iceberg, I believe, like in the first part of the residency, what we do is engaging in the diverse economies which are under the surface, which are not being seen so commonly in the city. And but the idea is also to go around this iceberg and to create a dialogue between the visible and the not so visible aspect of economy. So in this part that is invisible, we work mostly with local associations. AMRT, Cooperativo is here as well. Associação de Moradores da Partilha, Biblioteca de Vapor. We work with the public space, the social space, community space, and with mediators and friends who allow these informal engagements in the community. And the way we work, or the way the work happens, it's not like we decide that the work is going to happen like this. But the way the work happens in these neighborhoods is through flow, porosity, open-endedness. That there is actually no, we don't require results from the artists. It's continuous, and this is something that was understood by us from the local associations from the beginning, that the desire was for establishing a continuity in the project and for getting to know each other. So the importance of relation is very high. And usually we don't use, in this informal way, we don't use so much monetary resources. It's more like shared resources, gifts, commons. And there is also an understanding that there are common goals we work for, but there is also ambiguity when it comes to outcomes. So something can be educative, can be an art project, can be something good for the community, or something that we learn, for instance. And these are the neighborhoods currently that we are working with in this edition. Now we will have another edition also in the public institutions, hospital and elder center, but I'm just going to speak about the peripheries because it's a lot of projects. And we also try to think about the potential of knowledge of these places. So every year we have kind of a topic just to situate a bit our practice and our thinking, but in a very open way. And from this potential, we kind of give a motto for the people to come and create and explore in these places. And I just found some photos that give us an idea of what it means to be going under the surface of the iceberg and to engage in these community economies. And some of the photos from the residency. This is in Quinta da Fonte, which is another neighborhood that it's kind of a rehousing neighborhood. And while we walk on the street, we see all these verticality, all these buildings. But as we start walking and exploring, perhaps there is a passage, there is kind of this surface or this passage that we cross, and suddenly things start to shift a bit or to be a bit different, and our bodies also start to behave maybe in a different way, to sit in a different way. And we start to engage also with each other on a different way. And suddenly, from this perspective of being inside or under the surface, the world also looks a bit different. And we find places in our city that maybe we didn't know they existed so close to the center, but actually so different and such different practices that we wouldn't think about our city in this way. So I just share a few photos of this first engagement in the territories and in these neighborhoods, but actually we don't have a lot of time, so I just show them. We do a lot of things. Also, there is also this kind of occupation of the public space. There is also different forms of practice. It's a quite open project, and we we cannot say exactly what happens. It's very experimental and collaborative. We had more than 30 people doing the residency. This is a person in the center is Anna, who is also living in one of the neighborhoods. Is the first artist we had that is actually from the neighborhood. And also wanted to share in some of the photos we see we have so many different people from different origins and different backgrounds. And we understand that when this encounter happens is also when we learn, when knowledge is being shared and created. And also this idea of Juntamo, that we spoke before about Documenta in other presentation and about the idea of Lumbung. But basically ancestral communities usually have these words that represent the solidarity between family, friends, neighbors, and Cape Verdean community has the word Juntamon. And this word is a good example of the practices of community economies in these neighborhoods. Now, the second part of the playground is when we try to engage with the top, let's say, of the iceberg, or in this case, the visible part of the iceberg. And it's a bit a more tricky engagement, a bit more strange for us because we usually come from the community economies background, but it's also an important engagement exactly to create this dialogue. So in this case, we work with the universities from different disciplines, economics university, social science, humanities. We work with the innovation and entrepreneurship programs, public institutions like municipalities, and partners and sponsors, which are enterprises. And also what we learn also is that actually these places also have informality and diverse economies and community economies inside them, and they have these dimensions. But also there are the other dimensions that change a bit. So we start to see more these kind of transaction related practices. Like remember when we started to work with the Faculty of Economics, which was the first faculty who hosted our exhibition, there was more this dialogue, like, okay, you give this exhibition to our students and we give you credibility. So there was kind of this transaction and not so much like, let's work together for this shared purpose. But of course, it depends on the university. For instance, this year we work with the social science Nova FCSH, and the dynamics can be a bit different already. The roles are more fixed, it's more bureaucratic. The distinction between public and private also is more clear, which in the neighborhoods usually it's more communitary. And there is a requirement also for more centralization and planning, for instance, when we start working with funding, but also when we work with the institutions, we usually have to have one person who is responsible, a centralized centralization of where, for instance, where do we keep the money of the collective, all these things. And this sometimes it's not working so well in an horizontal and organic collective. So we have to find dialogues here. And the same words have different meanings. For instance, innovation, sustainability, inclusion means something very different in Zambujal neighborhood or in a Nova Economics University. So our role here is more of challenging, provoking, or resisting, but also we are resisting a bit the ourselves, the capitalocentric view. But of course, if we want to create a dialogue, it means that it's normal, that it's hard for both sides of the iceberg. So here we share just some photos. So here we present a project at the entrepreneurship program. And also we do this graffiti workshop, which is a very communitarian, very spontaneous and informal. So we still do these practices in a more institutional or more formal places. Here it's in the campus of the Economics University. And we have the exhibition more in this white cube format. We also do a publication with the results of the residency, but also we invite the people from the neighborhoods to experience the exhibition and to be part and feel themselves also in another space. Because actually for these neighborhoods, the hegemonic economy is the community economy, and suddenly they also are engaging in a different economy and a different way of being when they visit a university. And also for these kids, it's good that they visit a university and maybe they see they can also go to study, for instance. And here it's interesting because the University of Economics in the time, we spoke about inclusion, but then the university actually didn't provide us a space to present the community. And when we visit the university, we had to find this space. So this space actually was just the cafe of the university, which is a private cafe that allowed us to make a performance using their chairs in the middle of the campus. So we kind of feel like we are occupying the university because of this different in concept. But also we had a visit from the university to the neighborhoods, and actually this was very interesting because here we see students maybe start to make questions and start to see another possibility. And just to finish, two stories. So one metaphor or a story that I like to think about is the sugarcane. After experiencing these territories, I realized the importance of sugarcane in the city. And it can be an oppressive symbol because it also represents the colonial history, but it's also a symbol of pride and a symbol of sustainability for a Cape Verdean or Afro and African descendant population. Because they grow this sugarcane everywhere in the city. Every time you pass by a road, you can see them growing, and I never realized it was there until I've been on these neighborhoods. And it's a bit like the iceberg, that it was always there. We were just not realizing and not aware. And for instance, in Delu, there is a big industry through informal cooperatives of processing sugarcane and turning into drinks, and also they use it for agricultural as well, the subproducts. And the second example I wanted to show is a recent event we had, that one person from Zambujal neighborhood got killed by the police, and he was not armed, from my understanding. And there was a big wave of protest, quite in the line with the Black Lives Matter movement. But this time, actually, my experience of this protests didn't come from these photos taken by the media. I was having this experience from following Instagram of my friends from the neighborhood, and I could see, or from our WhatsApp groups of the project, and where people organize and speak about how do they deal with these kinds of oppression. And it also becomes a bit political experience after you do a residency in one of these neighborhoods. How do you experience the social movements around these economies? And just to conclude, community projects can be imagined. Well, we didn't do a lot of, just before I finish, we didn't do a lot of connections yet on the research between the community economies and what we do with the playground residencies, but there are a lot of points of contact. But I just wanted to highlight the idea that actually different systems, different economies have different systems, and different forms of weaving. And the residency allows a way of softly engaging with the diverse economies. So we don't really need to teach or to say what the diverse economies are. It's just inviting people to experience them. And artistic practices can provide a framework for this education towards the diverse and community economies. And also we realized that actually the dialogue started a bit from these more informal or more community-oriented economies, which are a bit more flexible than the capitalocentric economies. And why do we want this dialogue? Maybe just to cross-educate and cross-participate and to create some sort of harmony, because this big separation between realities in the city, it can bring a lot of distress to communities, and we lose a lot with not engaging in these diverse economies in the city. So, well, basically that's it from my side. This is our website. We will have an open call very soon for a second edition of the residencies. And now maybe I will stop sharing and we can maybe present the different people who are part of the collective or partners. They can speak a bit about themselves and also maybe comment, because it's a very short presentation, maybe what you would like to add. And that's it. I'm Ligia. I'm currently studying in Estonian Art Academy and trying to be part of this project as I can. Once maybe, shall I invite someone, or should you go by yourself?
You decide, Ligia.
You can go, Carla. You are speaking now. And then you can pass to someone else.
Okay, I'm here just representing FCSH at Nova University, so the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. And I happened to meet Ligia and MAIS UNO because I was invited to a small roundtable in the previous, the part of the project that was taking place at Nova SPE. And well, I actually, in my life in the last almost 20 years, I mainly work with choreographers, mainly contemporary choreographers. I lead a lab called Black Box Arts and Cognition, and also I coordinate a group of 20 researchers at IC Nova at FCSH called Performance and Cognition. So I pretty much work in the line of creativity processes, understanding human behavior. I come from cognitive linguistics, so it's really an intersection of applied research via the arts, but always with the lens of looking at how people behave and how creativity can be enhanced by the strong influence of the body, the physical body. But here I'm really, today I really wanted to be present because I was also hosting, but just indirectly, just offering the space in the last months of September for the residencies at Trafaria. At Trafaria, because we have, as Nova, we have had a project of 4 years working there with the communities strongly towards what they called urban regeneration via the arts, and I was coordinating the Portuguese part. So this was really a very, very nice project in very close contact with the communities. And I got to know a lot of people there. Mm-hmm. And so we accommodated Ligia's request to have some residencies there as well. And this was really an example of although it was a huge project of European standards, Horizon 2020, lots of countries, 18 partners, but we were, as usual, Portugal has a very slower, a very smaller part of the budget, but still we had a lot of activities. I coordinated things from slam poetry to fado itinerant shows, passing by a lot of series of podcasts and so on and so forth, and the roadshow, and even now this weekend we had a concerts of rappers of the second Turrão. And Ligia, if I may, now everybody introduces themselves, of course, and I would like to know if you could also then tell a little bit about these residencies at Trafaria, because either I missed it at the beginning or I didn't see it on your presentation, right?
It was a more generic presentation
sure,
regarding
but this was
all.
the recent one that I was just wondering why you, or if it went really well, or if you're
yes I will talk about this. Maybe we just do a round first of everyone, and then we add a few more comments. Maybe Anna, you want to say something?
Me?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm Anna, and I work. I'm a social worker, and I'm working in the municipality of Amadora and the neighborhood of Zambojal that Ligia spoke about, because we are in the mouth of the world at the last weeks. And we like a lot combine social intervention and Arctic language. And so my English is not very good to speak about this. But if you can say some the things that I said, Ligia, why it's so important for us make this combination, I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, Marianne, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I can go on. So my name is Marianne, and I was a resident artist in Talud in 2023 for the first edition of the residency in from MAIS UNO. And this summer, actually, I was also a mentor. So it means that for the Talud and for Talud. And so it means that I was accompanying newly founded artists who would go there and also over people who were interested in having a tour of the neighborhood to understand a little bit better the dynamics. And it was actually very interesting, also a bit like what you said, Ligia, about like the fact that you spend more time in those places make everything that is happening there more about politics, even more than about art. Actually, that was something that was also pretty much my experience. And yes, that was we can talk little bit more about that later. Maybe.
We have Nicole, Julia, Sophia.
Yeah, I can say something. I joined the collective like for the summer and for the since last spring, and I just moved to Portugal then. And I have to say, with like this project and with the residency, I think I got to know Lisbon like way in a different way than like any other people that come from far. And I think it was really valuable for me as to how to perceive the city and how to work with different communities that probably you will otherwise never meet, and also to to work with artists of also different backgrounds and see what can happen if you go somewhere and do something. So that's what I would like to add from my experience that I had working with you.
Nicole.
Sorry, I'm juggling between calls and this as usual. So I'm Nicole. I'm also part of the MAIS UNO. I'm a visual artist and a photographer and architect, and I've been with the collective since almost day one. And that's it, more or less.
And I see Julia. Hello.
I can go on. Yes, so I'm Julia. I'm from Poland, and now I'm a member of MAIS UNO. I was also a part of last summer residency program, and that was also a very profounding experience for me. As well, and maybe because of I'm running also a research for my master thesis, which is connected with management practices in the collectives and its cultural offer, and also how it's affecting communities. So it was very teaching experience, not only for the research part, but also for my own practice. And I noticed that the more time I spent in the neighborhoods, the more I was connected with people there, and the more I could resonate with people and feel like I could really do something. So it was really great, and I'm looking for another residency next year. So
very well. Well, regarding questions, there was this question about how was the experience in Trafaria. Maybe I can actually explain how is the experience in the four territories, because they are a bit different from each other. They are similar because they face similar kind of contexts in a way. They are they bring together a lot of people that come from different origins. They have more this informality towards them, and some of them are kind of these self-built neighborhoods, and some are also have this social housing. So they have some dimensions that are similar, yet they are also different. And actually, for instance, I believe that Zambojal is actually the one that has the most associations that are more coordinated with each other. Then we have, so basically in Zambojal, we really felt like we start to engage with the cooperativa, but suddenly we are just engaging with everyone. There is very good communication between the different associations in the neighborhood. Then we have Quinta da Fonte and Bairro do Talude. And mostly there's a huge work made by IMIRT because it's a 30-year-old association. And then there is a huge layer also of informality that people that just meet on the street. So mostly there we did the work through only one association, which was IMIRT. And in Trafaria, what we felt was it's a bit more fragmented. So it was much more difficult to engage, but also because it was the first year we work. And for instance, in Quinta da Fonte and Zambojal, we work since 2022. So these things take time. But also we realized that, for instance, especially in Segundo Torrão, we heard a lot of stories that there were associations, but they are not running anymore, or they were demolished, or these associations didn't speak with that one. And we really saw that also the territory is more fragmented. And then we were wondering, our biggest question regarding Trafaria was like, but should we be there or not? Do people want us there or not? And actually there is no, we really felt that even there is no one to answer this question because it's fragmented. So that's a question mark. We ended the project. But in the other hand, we also felt like maybe because it's fragmented, we should be there to create more connections. Yeah. Anyway, just saying, Julia was there, and also we shared some photos. Some of the photos we shared were from Trafaria. They were mixed with the other ones.
Yeah, thank you, Ligia. I understand the difficulty in the beginning. The first year also for us was 2020, so with the pandemics, we were there not so often. But in the 3 further years, it was really great. But we had an anthropologist with us, an Italian, going there almost every day, and I was going like every 2 weeks. Some people were going less. I was going then more and more towards the second year. But the problem was, and still is, but it's much better now, I'm glad to say, that they have, well, we did really with these anthropologists, we did a mapping, first of all, of the communities. And it happens that in such a small territory, as you know, it's like 3-4 kilometers long, they have 4 communities, 4 different ones, right? So the Torrão 2, which is the really more vulnerable in terms of infrastructure, of course, and the really contrasting to the center community, because it's mainly African. But the great thing to know there, and now I go to Torrão even on my own without any fear at all, and it's not dangerous at all as people say. Of course, in all these places, there are drugs at night and so on, but it's never dangerous for the ones there. And what we realized was, oh, sorry. Oh, actually, the rapper is calling me now. I'm sorry, I have to. So, a funny coincidence. So, to really, I think you know, Ligia, but we have the Santa Trafaria, we have Torrão 2, we have Madame Faber, and we have Cova do Vapor. So it's really very differentiated from community. So what I advise you, and I think I had told in the beginning, is to, of course, get to know at least one person from each of them. And responding to your question of if we should be there, because it's even difficult to know who to talk with, we do it really case to case. In the center of Trafaria, it's EDA, it's the association. They really have been there for many, many years. Dolores is excellent, so it's an incredible help. Then you have in Torrão the João Cão, the Association Canto Curió, and you go like this. You go from the local council to the fire brigade, sometimes to the association, sometimes to EDA, and this is the way it works. But my conclusion, and not to be brief, is that all the activities we've done, even now with this concert of the rappers, it's you. If you want to do something, you contact the person that is more interested in that activity already by themselves, and then you ask either the local councillor or the library director, or you see the parish or the Lourdes. And then it works really well, although we always feel, this is to conclude, that even in bigger activities like this concert, we had almost 100 people on Saturday night, but they bring, even in such a small area, the ones from Torrão, they came for the concert because their rappers were there. But then because they come, maybe some of them from Cova do Vapor don't come. So it's incredible how they even don't talk to each other for years. People from the Center Trafaria like Cova do Vapor because it's for fishing and it's leisure, and it's very quiet, very picturesque, even already becoming trendy. I would say almost kitschish in a way. And then the Torrão Dois is really isolated. So Torrão Dois has to fight a lot for themselves, and then the town hall is not doing what they should. The biggest problem, Lish, is that the town hall is trying to ignore Torrão Dois because it's a very, very complex problem. And either they interfere, and then the intervention is going to be really big because they have to send away lots of people, or they have to close their eyes so that they are still there. You see, and because of this ambiguous role that the town hall assumes, nothing happens because it's really a kind of taboo, this Torrão Dois, and it becomes then more and more forgotten, because if they look at it more closely, then big things will happen. And they will. I give it 1 or 2 more years and we'll have serious problems there. But problems are good things, let's see. But I still would like to encourage you that it's incredibly lovely to work with them when you work with a smaller group in each of the communities. The hardest work now for us, of course, now T-Factor is finished, but we are involved in the PRR, so this the resilience program with Trafaria. We are slightly involved, and the challenge is still and will be always to make these 4 communities communicate.
Yes, this is the weaving aspect that we were discussing, that we tried to do with this project. How do we weave different realities that don't talk to each other so much, or they are not aware of the dynamics of each other? And you also mentioned, also Marianne mentioned, it at some point, a certain point, it also becomes a bit political. You realize it's not only about economics, it's about politics, and this is another dimension.
Yeah, well, but I should, if you don't mind, just not to say, it's of course political, but what I feel from the town hall, and we don't always have the door open there. I mean, they are always kind, they're very kind, but then they don't act in the field, they don't really act, but I see that it's not only political, like now elections will come, so they'll have to start doing more things and say that they've done this and that, we know that for next year, but what I see also is that they are, in a way, it's true, they are afraid of interfering in Torrão Dois, because it will be extremely complex. It's thousands of people, they don't want to go away from there, even though it seems that they would need new houses, they don't want to go away. They have a very, 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 actually very well-organized community there, and they like to be there. So the town hall even is also struggling with the fragility of not wanting to dismantle everything, you know. So it's really very complex. It's not just political from the bad side. It's also
not
social.
Never said it was bad. I just said it was political. Yes.
Yeah.
I want a question regarding.
No,
I just wanted to ask if there are more people with questions, because I see, I don't know, Lena and Emma. If you have any question regarding the the project? If not, maybe I can ask just Anna, because Marianne was asking also, she was very curious to know. I think we are moving towards the political, but again, it's not about good and or it's just the dynamics is very interesting. Marianne was asking about this last incident with Zambojal. How is it seen from the perspective of people from Zambojal? Maybe Anna, you want to say how is it to run an association and to keep it open and working in the neighborhood when you have all these events happening?
It was hard. It was a hard days because one side you try to negotiate it with the young people that some kinds are involved in some disturbs. I don't know if you can say like that. And the other sides, we have to work with the young people that felt very bad with this, and with all the social communication, the media that said about the neighborhood, because they felt a lot that everyone looks like a bad person, and it had a very impact in the neighborhood. So in the quinta-feira, como é que se diz? Thursday, just to example, we will dinner with a big group that it's young adults to speak about this and how they felt, and how can they work in the community to not have this image that media was said about them.
Yeah, because you did a lot of work with yes?
Yes.
You did a lot of work with the association to create an image that people feel welcome at Zambojal, and people can a bit lose this negative aspect. And then when this incident comes, it's like you feel like you have maybe give 10 steps back again and start to do this work all over again.
Yes.
Yeah. But
yes, and
let's see.
then we knew the Odair and all his family, the two young people, was being here with us. They grow up with us, so we try to support also the family. And it's very difficult to manage all these emotions. That the family felt, the other young people felt. So we try here be a mediator of emotions, and how can we do the best way with this. I don't know to speak to.
No, we feel it more than we hear it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if there are more questions. I mean, it's quite, I don't know what happened to this session, because I think there should have been one more person here, but it's not. So I feel like I'm in my living room having a conversation with you. So it feels a bit less formal, which is also good. But I don't know if there are more thoughts or questions. Yes.
No, yeah, no. I just wanted to say something about what Anna and Carla also said, because it seems like sometimes we have a bit of misunderstandings, or maybe it's not a misunderstandings about what actually making things political means. Because for most of our lives, I guess we had been learning that the politics is made by the one who has been learning how to make politics, who has been going to the right schools, who had the right careers, or most of the time who come from the right families. And actually, in working also in those different spaces, we discovered that no, politics is actually among your daily life and is yours to take if you want to, and if you want to do something. So of course, it can mean something pretty bad, and it can be meant in the terms of the electoralism and the deadlines and all these things, but it's a lot more than that. And I think that's what we really realize when this kind of thing happen, is that politics runs everything, and it's not a bad thing, actually. It's not a bad word.
Great. I totally agree. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. It's also to do with because this is in the context of Community Economies conference, and this kind of, if you see politics as kind of a community practice, or you see it more like this kind of a pyramid, that there is somebody in the top that decides and just choose the person who is in the top. So I think it has also to do, and we learn also from these places, that actually politics is much closer to you than who you thought. And this was something that we interviewed all the artists, and they mentioned, most of them in the first year into that we did the residency in 2023. Most of them said they become more politically engaged and more engaged, also with people in their projects, and they rethought processes. So for instance, if I remember, the architects said that now when they make architecture, they think about ways of making things that they wouldn't consider before. So this is also why it's important to do the residencies, not only how the people in the territory change, but it's how do we change as visitors of the territory. How do we change ourselves by being with each other?
Yeah, we become more empathetic in a lot of ways. So
yeah, it's yeah.
And actually, I think that in the Bairro do Talude, it was a pretty good example of actually people taking politics in their hands, since it's not an official place, so people had to make the decision by themselves. Those kind of decisions usually are made by the city powers, or like the country powers, like you were talking about architecture. And it's a very good example of a place that is taking the politics in all the diverse sense of the world into the ends of the community. They decide the way they want to do the things. So it's
yeah, it's a bit like segundo round, like you build your own house, you organize your neighborhood, you take decision about how to manage it.
Yeah, you create your houses, and at the end you have a street. You don't plan the street and then you put the houses. It's something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If there are no more questions, I think we can wrap it up. And thank you. And we keep in touch. We will soon have more news. And we will also soon have the exhibition. So we'll discuss this later.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lydia. Talk to you later on. Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
All the best.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.